Sure.
All right. Yeah, the recording is on. You can start, Macy. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just setting up my chime in. I'm just gonna drop off quickly because of the chime setting. I'll join back in a minute. Yeah, okay, it's not. Let's try again. Share. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yeah, very clearly from here.
And that's the introduction to AWS security slide. Can you confirm?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Great, thank you so much. So yeah, let's begin. So hi everyone, I'm Maisie Fernandez. I'm a solutions architect at AWS, and I work in the UK central government team. And I've been at AWS for almost 2 years now, and I spent about a year at Amazon. So in terms of how I got into tech, so I did a software engineering degree at university. And after graduation, my first job was as a Java software developer. So I did that for about 3.5, 4 years, and I got interested in the design side of software. And I looked for a role as a junior solutions architect as my next job. And then from then on, I had a couple of solutions architect or technical architect type of roles. And eventually I ended up in Amazon as a solutions architect. And this may sound as a pretty standard route to you, but traditionally you'd find architects with years and years and years of experience in like heavy technical software development kind of roles, and not like myself who had about 3 to 4 years of software development experience. So this was the non-standard way in a very tech focused route. And the most pivotal piece of advice I've been given along the way is that it's okay to say you don't know something, especially in this role as a AWS solutions architect. And if you consider the number of AWS services is growing at such a fast rate, and there's an expectation for an AWS SA to know quite a lot about a lot of the different services that we have. And this approach to just admit when I don't know something has really helped me get over the imposter syndrome and generally made me more confident in my skills. And finally, a little bit about myself. So I'm based in London, and over lockdown last year, I got into gardening. I enjoy DIY. I also enjoy running. So I'm currently training for a marathon in April next year. So thanks for having me today. And today I'll be talking to you about AWS security. So feel free to stop me at any time and ask any questions as we go along. And we'll also have a Q&A at the end of the session. Okay, so let's start. So again, just the agenda for today, we'll talk about the shared responsibility model. So what we as AWS are responsible for and what our customers are responsible for when you think about running workloads in the cloud, and what we mean by security of the cloud. And yeah, hello. Okay, I'm guessing someone's not muted themselves. And then we'll also talk about the security in the cloud, and then finally some time for Q&A. Okay, so many organizations face challenges maintaining and managing the security of their on-premises infrastructure. And why do you think that is? So one of the reasons I can say is lack of visibility. So in an on-premises environment, it can be really difficult to know what resources and data there is at any given time, where it's moving, and who's utilizing or accessing it. So for example, it requires expensive or complex tooling to get an accurate real-time asset inventory. And most organizations just don't have the level of visibility they would like in an on-premises environment. And without visibility, it's really challenging for organizations to adequately secure their infrastructure and their data to meet their security and compliance requirements. The second challenge is low degree of automation. So think about copying and pasting information from one tool to another or manually applying patches. And it's been difficult to automate key security tasks due to issues such as interoperability of the third-party software systems that could be used or any homegrown tools. And manual processes tend to lead to inconsistent execution, longer wait times to address all systems, and even in most cases, it disrupts the customer experience. So the goal of automation is to programmatically handle tasks that would otherwise be done manually by IT staff. And this is a lot easier to do in the cloud. So this combination of lack of visibility coupled with the low degree of automation really compromises an organization's ability to move quickly and effectively secure their on-premises infrastructure. So traditionally, organizations have been forced into a binary trade-off. So they can either move quickly or they can stay secure. And due to the overly manual security processes, InfoSec is often forced to slow things down to human speed so they can ensure that the organization is secure. But today, it's possible to automate many of the basic security tasks like patching, and with the right tooling, you can gain visibility needed to accurately identify and monitor critical assets and data. And with the cloud, all of this is made easier so you can stay agile while maintaining and in even many cases improving your security. And by providing highly integrated logging and monitoring, as well as integrated tools to automate core security functions, our customers can use AWS to innovate quickly and then also maintain their security posture. So with AWS, you control where your data is stored, who can access it, and what resources your organization is consuming at any given moment. You also have access to fine-grained identity and access controls combined with continuous monitoring for near real-time security information. And this ensures that the right resources have the right access at all times, wherever the information is stored. You can also reduce risk as you scale up by using security automation and activity monitoring services to detect suspicious security events like config changes across your entire ecosystem. And you can even integrate our services with the existing solutions that our customers might have to streamline the operations and simplify the compliance reporting. So automating security tasks on AWS enables our customers to be more secure by reducing human configuration errors and by giving the team more time to focus on other business critical work. They can select from a wide range of integrated solutions that can be combined to automate tasks, making it easier for the security team to work more closely with developers and the operations team, for example, to create and deploy code at a much faster rate. So, for example, by employing technologies like machine learning, AWS enables our customers to automatically and continuously discover, classify, and protect sensitive data in AWS with just a few clicks in the console. And you can also automate infrastructure and application security checks to continually enforce security and compliance controls and help confidentiality, integrity, and availability at all times. So AWS has the largest global infrastructure footprint with about 25 regions, 81 availability zones with one or more data centers. And I'll talk about what a region and availability zone is in more detail over the next few slides. So each AWS region has multiple availability zones, and each availability zones has multiple physically separated data centers. And we don't really use other backbone providers for AWS traffic once it hits a backbone. And each availability zone is a fully isolated partition of the AWS global infrastructure. And this just means that it is physically separate from any other availability zone by a meaningful distance, for example, about 100 kilometers. And each availability zone has its own power infrastructure. And availability zones gives our customers the ability to operate production applications and databases that are highly available, fault tolerant, and scalable than you'd have with a single data center. And all availability zones are interconnected with high bandwidth, low latency networking. They're over fully redundant, dedicated metro fiber. And this is just there to provide high throughput, low latency networking between the different availability zones that we have. So why do we need a backbone network? And with a backbone network, the traffic traverses over our infrastructure rather than the public internet. And we have a lot more control over our network. We can control the redundancy and the scale of the network, which leads to much higher availability for our customers. And we can also avoid internet hotspots, which could lead to suboptimal connectivity for our customers. So let's start talking about security of the cloud and what we mean by it. So in a typical on-premises security model, our customers are responsible for the end-to-end security of the data centers. So as you can see, that means our customers are responsible for the regions, any of the availability of the data centers. They are responsible for the software side in terms of acquiring storage, compute power, having all the networking in place for this, all the client side, server side encryption, operating system, network and firewall configuration, and also having the right access to the customer data. And since AWS and its customers share control over the IT environment, both parties have responsibilities for managing the IT environment. So AWS's part in the share responsibility model includes providing its services a highly secure and controlled platform and providing a wide range of security features our customers can use. And the customer side of responsibility includes configuring their IT environments in a secure and controlled manner for their own purpose. So while our customers don't really communicate with us their use and configurations of AWS, AWS does communicate its security and control environment that is relevant to our customers. And this is done by, say, obtaining industry certifications and independent third-party attestations. We publish information about the AWS security and control practices in the form of white papers and blog posts, and also provide certificates, reports, and other documentation directly to our customers who are under NDA. And this is as and when required. So the shared responsibility model and the line varies with different kind of services. So if you look at infrastructure services, so this is EC2, a virtual machine type of service. As you can see at the bottom highlighted in orange, AWS is only responsible for the global infrastructure, the hardware, and then the compute, network, database storage aspect of it. And the customers are responsible for a lot more in terms of server-side, client-side encryption, operating system, firewall configuration, as well as the data. So the reason for this is some of our customers need more customizations or they need more responsibility. They need to have more control over what they do with our virtual machines. And if you compare that to our RDS service, the responsibility is split into half and half. And AWS do a bit more here. So we look after the operating system, network and firewall configurations. We also look after the platform and application management. And then the customer is still responsible for client-side encryption, the firewall configuration on their side, customer data, etc. And if you compare that to our abstracted services, for example, S3, AWS is responsible for a lot more. And the only things our customers are responsible for is the data and then the client-side encryption of the data. And you may think, why would someone need less customization? But if you compare that to EC2, that's for customers who need a lot more responsibility, but the onus is on our customers to put the security control and measures in place. Whereas in S3, because AWS looks after a lot of it for you, it does all the heavy lifting for our customers. More best practices are built in, which means that our customers inherit these best practices. And yeah, less responsibility means less things they need to look after, and they can just focus on innovating and delivering what the business critical work that they need to deliver. So just focus on the right thing that is responsible for the business. Okay, so I talked about the global and security compliance. So to help our customers with their compliance efforts, AWS regularly achieved third-party validations for thousands of global compliance requirements that we really continuously monitor to help meet the compliance standards. And our customers inherit the latest security controls operated by AWS, thereby strengthening their own compliance and certification programs, while also receiving access to tools that they can use to reduce their cost and the time to run their own specific security assurance requirements. So because we do this, they have a lot less responsibility in terms of spending money and time to get these certifications in place. And then we support more we support a lot of different kind of security and compliance certifications like PCI DSS, which is more relevant to card data, any transactional services that require card information, for example, HIPAA, which is a medical standard, FedRAMP, GDPR, FIPS 142, NIST 800. So there's quite a lot of different ones, and there's also more regional kind of global and security compliance that are more specific to, say, Europe or US or China. So we do that as well. So what do we mean by security in the cloud? Regardless to the industry our customers are in and the type of workload that they are running on AWS, their security team will have a number of security controls to build, run, operate, etc. And these controls will cover many domains covering security visibility, threat intelligence, identity and access management, encryption, network security, and so on. And our customers may also choose to align a security framework with industry standards such as NIST, which is a cybersecurity framework which uses the concepts of identity, protect, detect, and recover as a way to frame their control objectives. And while protecting and preventing security event is the first line of defense, many organizations now prefer to assume that they may have already been breached and have appropriate detective response and recovery controls that allow them to control the incident and resume their business operation much quickly. And diving deep into each of the security services offered by AWS is outside of the scope of this presentation because there's a lot that we can talk about. But this is sticking to a more high-level presentation. But what I want you to take away from this slide is that AWS has a breadth and depth of security service offerings that can help our customers meet their compliance objectives. So say, for example, AWS System Manager allows you to very easily patch your infrastructure systems on a predefined patch baseline and schedule. And it also allows you to execute commands directly on the operating system. So all of this is logged and made available to the security team for review. And this level of uplift significantly improves the security posture by ensuring that only authorized commands are executed and systems are patched in a timely manner to reduce the likelihood of a vulnerability being exploited. AWS also provides protected controls like AWS Shield, a managed DDoS mitigation service. So DDoS is distributed denial of service attack. So when this just means that an attacker can send multiple different website requests just to bring a website down. And then AWS WAF, which is a firewall to protect the web applications against common attacks like cross-site scripting and SQL injection. And then to encrypt your data, AWS offers KMS, so Key Management Service. KMS makes it easy for you to create and manage cryptographic keys and then control the usage across a wide range of AWS services and also within the applications. And KMS is a secure and resilient service that uses hardware security modules that have been validated under FIPS 140 Level 2, and it is integrated with AWS CloudTrail to provide you with all the logs of all the key usage to help meet compliance requirements and audit. And then finally, I'll talk a bit about CloudTrail. So CloudTrail is a service that enables governance, compliance. You could do operational auditing. You can do risk auditing of your AWS account. And with CloudTrail, you can log, you can continuously monitor and retain account activity related to different actions across your AWS infrastructure. CloudTrail also provides event history of your AWS account activity, including actions that have been taken through the management console, for example, AWS SDK, command line tools, and other AWS services. And this event history simplifies security analysis. You could do resource change tracking. You could also do troubleshooting. And CloudTrail can also be used to detect, say, unusual activity within your AWS account because you can see all the API calls. And I want to talk a bit about the framework itself. So in terms of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So in terms of identifying risks or any findings that you may think that may respond to any malicious activity in your account, our first thing is to protect it, detect it, and then respond. But in terms of responding to malicious activity within your account, it's also really important to automate that. So if that does happen, then you're ready, and the systems are there in place to reduce time and effort. There's also a way to detect. So you may want to find out if there's been any malicious activity within an account. Why is that happening? What time frame did that happen? So you would want to do more investigation. And then finally, recover. A lot of the times with recover, we think maybe data loss. So how do we recover the data? But it could also mean recovery of the system. So say your system went down, how do you recover? Data recovery is one aspect to it, but with infrastructure as code, services like CloudFormation, OpsWork, you can build in the resiliency. So even if your infrastructure is down, you're able to rebuild it with very little effort. So I do want to look at one service in more detail. So Amazon GuardDuty is a threat detection service that continuously monitors for malicious activity and authorized behavior to protect your AWS accounts and workloads. So with GuardDuty now, so with the cloud, you can have collection and aggregation of account and network activity, for example. You can simplify this, but it can also be time consuming for security teams to continuously analyze event log data for potential threats. And with GuardDuty, you can have an intelligent and cost-effective option for continuous threat detection. And this service uses machine learning, anomaly detection, and integrated threat intelligence to identify and prioritize potential threats. GuardDuty analyzes tens of billions of events across multiple data sources such as CloudTrail events, Amazon VPC logs, and DNS logs. And GuardDuty really identifies threats by continuously monitoring the network activity and account behavior within the AWS environment. And this is generally done by baselining an account. So this just means that you run GuardDuty within your account, say within 7 days, it will monitor the account activity over that period of time. And any anomalies or any unusual behavior that will be over the baseline. So then it will know there's any activity that does not meet the usual behavior of your account. And threat intelligence coupled with machine learning and behavior models can really help identify any threats such as cryptocurrency mining, for example, any credentials that have been compromised, communication with any unknown instances, any other control servers that it's been communicating with, or any API calls known from any malicious IPs. So with GuardDuty, you can also have a custom threat list. So any IP addresses that you think are malicious, you can add it to that threat list, and it will keep track of any other activities or any other API calls have been communicating with these known IP addresses. And in addition to detecting threats, GuardDuty also makes it easy to automate how you respond to threats, reducing your remediation and recovery time. And it can perform automated remediation actions by leveraging Amazon CloudWatch events and AWS Lambda. And Amazon GuardDuty also integrates closely with Detective, which is our detective service. And with that, you can grab a finding from, say, GuardDuty, say, for example, it's a Bitcoin mining activity, and you can use services like Detective to find out when this activity occurred, which instance this activity is occurring, what other instances or IP addresses is this particular instance communicating with, which was the user who created this instance in the first place, and has that user been creating any other activity within the account. And you can see also activity like if anyone's turned off CloudTrail, or if anyone's removed any access keys or any secrets, they've created new keys. So you can start linking different behaviors together, and then you can start to see a picture forming in terms of what how these threats, different threats, link together. And the also other service that GuardDuty integrates with is a Security Hub, which is another service where all the findings from services like GuardDuty, Macie, Network Firewall, all get accumulated into one service, and then that service you can the findings get prioritized as high, medium, low, and then some of our customers choose to send out these findings from GuardDuty Security Hub out of AWS into their on-premise solution. So we can call it a SIEM solution, anywhere where they can start to analyze these services and analyze these findings in more detail, and how they and they can choose how to act on some of these findings. So some of the third parties or partner solutions that we see customers integrate Security Hub with is, say, for example, Splunk, our customers can also choose to integrate these findings out into, say, a ticketing system like Jira, where it goes into a dashboard, and then they can prioritize which of these findings they want to act on really quickly. So this could also be things like, say, S3 bucket is made public, so that would send out a finding out, and then that would create a ticket in Jira, and then a developer will look at that and then fix the issue. And this can also be automated, so you can use CloudWatch events and Lambda. So giving an example of an S3 bucket, so say a malicious user makes an S3 bucket with lots of confidential information, they make it public. You can set up a CloudWatch event rule that checks the configuration changes, and then it will trigger a CloudWatch event, which will trigger a Lambda function, and it will change the configuration of the S3 bucket from public to private. So all this, some of the things can be automated very quickly. And yeah, so these are lots of different kind of automations you could do. It just saves our customers from doing all of the heavy lifting and manual work themselves. And I think that was the end of my slide. Does anyone have any questions? Hello? Guard duty at work. That's a good question. Let me see if I can do a short walkthrough in the console now, and I'll show you what that looks like. Give me a few minutes to log in. Just share my screen again. Are you able to see my screen again? So just a walkthrough of the console. So this is what a guard duty finding will look like. So this was from a previous lab that I've run, but as you can see, it's found out some anomalous behavior. And if I click on that, you can see on the side, so guard duty will tell you what kind of finding it is. So it's a low finding, and it tells you what it is. So severity is low, which region is founded in, which account ID, what API calls have been listed, any unusual behavior, any resources that were affected, etc. So a lot of information. And then if I open guard duty finding, it will take you, I think, detect this one. Let me go back. Yeah, so that's the only finding that I've got. Let me see if I've got any others.
Can you also show how it looks in the console? So if I log into maybe my EC2, how will I know that there's a guard duty alarm that went off?
So you need to enable. Are you able to see my screen, by the way?
We didn't see your screen right away. I'm sorry. We just saw a swirl. So we didn't
Are
see
you
it
able
from
to
the
see it
beginning.
now?
Yeah, we can see
I'm
it now.
sharing. Okay, right, yeah. So let me go back to US East. I think it was that. I'm just trying to find which region it was in again. US East one, probably. Yes. So in order to have guard duty findings enabled, you need to enable guard duty. So it's a fairly simple. So the first time you go to guard duty, it will ask you to get started, and you click on guard duty, and that's it. So that's how guard duty starts. And the way you'll be notified if there's any malicious activity within your account is within the guard duty findings. So if you go to guard duty findings, and it will raise any kind of high, low, medium severity findings here. So if there's been any significant activity with your EC2 instances, then this is where there will be a list of activity. And then again, as usual, you do more investigation based on this. So this one's mainly related to assume admin role. So, and the different kind of calls, as you can see, is more related to S3. So that's more relevant here. But if it was anything to do with EC2 instances, then you'd be able to pivot into that and then find exactly what kind of which EC2 instances are affected.
Okay, so my question is there anything, if you're in another window, is there anything that shows you that there's a guard duty alarm, or is it simply SES and SNS?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, the way you would automate this is you can use SNS to send an email notification to your email account, and that's a good way to start. So what you can do is so SNS would generally send you a list of all the high severity findings, for example, and you can do this like a weekly or a monthly basis, and then your security teams would then look at all these findings and respond to that. The next best option is to automate that. So you can use CloudWatch Events, which is also called EventBridge now, and it's mainly there to send triggers. So you can select a particular finding. If it finds that finding, then it can trigger a Lambda function which can remediate. So again, it really depends how do you want to know there's an issue within your say guard duty has found an issue within your account. So it really depends how you want to be notified, whether you want to be notified via email or you want it to auto remediate it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and one more question. If you're working with a private cloud, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to find out is there any instances where you would not use guard duty?
I mean, so guard duty, detective, security hub, all these services are there to help you monitor your security and threats within AWS, right? But there's lots of third-party products or partner products that you can also choose from the AWS marketplace. So there's also an option. But generally, because Guard Duty, Security Hub, and all the security tooling are integrated pretty seamlessly, it gets findings from from all the different sources like CloudTrail, VPC flow logs. So all this information can be used in a more in a centralized manner. So it makes it easy for you to investigate any threats that are in your account. So, but it's a personal choice whether you want to opt to use this tool or not.
Okay, and I may have missed it, but is there a cost to using guard duty?
Yes, there is a cost. Let me see if there's a pricing page. Guard duty pricing. Yeah, so it really depends on the CloudTrail events that are consumed. yeah, so it's based on how many events, VPC flow and DNS logs, how many logs per month, how many GB per month, and there's some pricing examples on the website as well if you're interested.
Okay, thank you.
That's right.
Those
Any
were all
other
the questions
questions?
I had. Thank you.
Okay, so JB's asked, can you recommend any specific resources to learn AWS security that would bring the person up to speed? What do you do on a daily basis? So I find that the one of the best resources is YouTube. So at the reInvent, Reinforce, a lot of our security specialists, even our customers, do lots of interesting talks on different topics. And even like Guard Duty, if you just YouTube Guard Duty, there'll be lots of webinars and talks that we publish all the time, and that's all free resource. So yeah, feel free to use that. There's lots of white papers that we publish all the time. Yeah, Twitch is good. Blog posts as well. So a lot of the times when I'm preparing for customer meetings and I need to get up to speed quickly, I definitely use YouTube. It's been a lifesaver. So definitely make use of that. Any other questions? No problem at all. Yeah, just let me know if you've got any questions, and happy to even share more resources. I can share them with Raj and he can share it with you. Yeah, lots of interesting white papers and yeah, lots of resources online, lots of videos widely available, and yeah, definitely have a read through. Awesome. So I don't know if you've come across the well architected framework, but so there's different pillars and security is one of the pillars, and it talks about how we approach security at AWS and some of the best practices in terms of developing your solutions. And there's a lot to cover, from identity and access management to encryption. KMS has a really good white paper, very detailed but also very interesting. So yeah, a lot of services have a lot more information. So Ada has raised a hand. Any question, Ada? No? How do we secure an EMR cluster? So I don't have too much knowledge on EMR, but again, one of our core services is identity and access management, which integrates with pretty much most of our services. And yeah, so that's one of the services that you could use. Also really depends if you're talking about encryption at rest or encryption in transit. Again, so it really depends where the data sits. Again, KMS integrates with a lot of our services as well. So it really depends what kind of security you're looking for and what risks that you have identified with the EMR itself. But if you have a look at the documentation, each of our services have a section on security where it talks about how we do encryption in transit, whether it uses TLS, for example. So a lot of information is covered there. And again, the two main services, native services, would be with KMS or and not even or and identity and access management. So we work with least privilege access, so only give access to things that require it as and when, so using the right roles and responsibilities and permissions within IAM. So that would be the way. No problem. No problem at all. Any other questions?
No questions from me. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful presentation and very informative. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you for listening to me.
Cheers. Have a wonderful evening and season's greetings.
Yes, have a good Christmas, everyone, and a Happy New Year.